This may be the last jar of sauerkraut I ever buy. Why? Because it's so much cheaper and better to make it on your own. Basically, 2 ingredients, cabbage and salt. I use regular table salt. You could go exotic and go sea salt or Himalayan salt. You can also add some garlic powder or garlic salt to change it up a little bit. I did a lot of research and tried to figure out some things that I wasn't seeing on other videos. Number 1, people will show you how to make it, but they won't show you the end result. Or they show you the end result and they don't show you how to make it. So this video is going to be a combination of both, and I might actually divide it into 2 pieces for those that are just interested in the making part and those that are interested in the after you let it do its thing part. Tools that you'll need for this, pretty minimal. You need some jars, 16 ounce. It takes 4 to do about 3 pounds worth of cabbage. A really small amount of salt. I was kind of surprised. You'll want to oversalt and you don't want to do that. I tried different number of days on which to ferment in order to see which was best. The first I did was 6 days, and then I did to 11 days, and then I went out to 14 days or 2 weeks. Usually 3 to 10 days is what they recommend. I thought 14 gave me a little more flavor. 6 days for me was a little too crunchy and too ripe. Once you get done with doing the fermenting, you need to put some of these white covers on. Down below will be all the materials you need to make your own sauerkraut. And it's worth it. Not only can you adjust it and customize it to your taste, but to buy organic sauerkraut is expensive. $10 or more for less than 2 jars, 2 16-ounce jars. I mean, that's crazy. I don't want to pay that price. Do you? I just want my sauerkraut. First thing you're going to need to do after you buy the cabbage and the salt is get yourself a kit. Now there's all sorts of kits out there with different things that allow the fermentation to go on. This is probably the best one I found. It's $39, which is pretty reasonable for what you get. This is unsponsored, but I like a couple things about this kit. First of all, it's an American company. When I split this tamper, they sent me 2 brand new tampers and a couple more special lids for fermentation. So there's all sorts of bubblers and things like this. The thing I liked is that it was a simple top that you put a regular ball jar kind of rim on, and it allowed the fermentation process to work. So shout out to this company because they made it right for me. Couple seconds of rubbing down these tampers with the conditioner makes all the difference in the world on keeping this acacia wood functional and ready to go every time you need to use it when you're making sauerkraut, kimchi, whatever it is. The recipe down below, or I'll just say it now, is 3 pounds of cabbage and 1.5 tablespoons of salt. That's it on the salt, which is I thought was crazy. But don't want to do any more than that. Otherwise, your sauerkraut's going to be too salty. So this weighs in right around 4.6 pounds. So I'm going to shave a little bit of this off and keep it at 3 pounds just so I can show you the recipe. 2.99 pounds. All right, so this is what we're going to make sauerkraut out of. We'll put this other stuff to the side and use it for another recipe. When it comes to cutting the cabbage, you can do all sorts of things. Depends on what works for you. If you don't have a food processor, you can just line it up like this, get it, and just kind of slice it through. This can take time. You don't want it too small, you don't want it too big. And it will actually change a little bit in size during the fermentation process. So you curl your fingers in. So that's kind of the consistency you want to have. A fine shred. About the thickness of linguine, not fettuccine. divide this head and get this core out. It just takes once you've cut up your cabbage, just put it off to the side like this. You can actually put it in a large bowl. So I guess that's what I'll do with this piece. And you want to salt it. You want to keep track of the salt. You don't want too much. So all this that I hand cut is an option, of course. We'll just put it in the bowl like this. With a food processor, I have to run it twice. I just cut down like this into chunks that I can get it into the food processor and put a wedge in, maybe a second wedge, get it down in there, pack it down nice and good, turn on the food processor, and then just run it through. At some point, I have it all jammed in there, so put the part that hasn't been cut up on one side and empty out the part that has. And I'll see it's a little longer than I would prefer, although the thickness is pretty good. So just take it all out of the food processor, put it on the side here, and then I'll just run it again. Or, if you didn't want to do that, I guess you could use your knife. A little bit at a time, put it back in there. And shred it again. So I'll finish this up and then I'll show you the next step. I finished the second run. I've unplugged it before I disassembling the food processor. Take out the blade. But this is exactly where I want it for the cut thickness shred of the sauerkraut. You can use regular table salt. And if for some reason it comes out any different than sea salt, I'll post the results down below. But I'm not thinking it will.
1, 2, 3, 4 and a half.
1.5 tablespoons. Layers of cabbage and salt in a big mixing bowl. Don't worry about your hands because they're going to get busy here in a second. With the double run in the food processor, you can see the cut I've achieved. Layer in just a little bit of salt. Just keep pouring. Put a layer in. A little more salt. Another layer. A little more salt. And just the final round of salt. Now, this is where the fun begins. You just want to get in here with your hands and start bruising the cabbage. Now, I think what you might be surprised by is there's not a lot of moisture in there. You can see it's starting to give a little bit of moisture. And I was surprised too, first couple times I made this. You just want to get in there and just squeeze. If you're having a bad day, that's a good day to make sauerkraut. Just want to get that all together. And just spread it around to make sure all that salt that you've layered in there does its thing. And you can see already how quickly the cabbage is releasing its water, juice, whatever it is. Do this for 5 to 10 minutes and kind of really break it down. Yeah, you can hear the tone of the cabbage is changing. So the softer you want your sauerkraut, the more you want to squeeze and the more you want to do this. If you don't want a sauerkraut that is so soft, maybe has a little bit of bite to it, then 5 to 7 minutes might be all you need. So this is what the cabbage looks like 10 minutes or so. You can see there's quite a lot of water in there. It's probably reduced down in the size by 50%, so it's half the size it was when you put it in the bowl and started mashing it around. So now comes the finishing part. I'm going to start with 4 16-ounce largemouth jars. You've got these weights that come with this kit. Comes the weights. You get 7 of those, 7 covers. Now these are the burp covers or the fermentation covers that allow gas to come out. So you can see a little hole there. These also work. I'm going to try these out. It's got a little slit there, and that allows gas to come out of the jars, but not let any bad things go in. And you've got your tamper. And start filling them up. And then we'll just divide the rest as much as we can into the jars for now. Fill it up almost to the top. Some of the water, salt water that's coming out, and pour it into the jars. Alright, now you take your tamper, and there's two ends. This is for a narrow mouth jar, this is for a large mouth jar, and you just push it down like this. If you didn't have a tamper, you could use your hand, or I was thinking about getting a 1.5 inch dowel, but when I started looking at that, it was pretty much the same price as the tamper, so just decided to go with the kit. Because with the weights and these burping fermentation covers, it just seemed to all make sense to invest the $39, because you're going to get that back after a couple runs of making these compared to buying this stuff in the store. So about 55 cents to $1 a jar, as opposed to $6 to $10 a jar. So you'll make up the cost of the kit pretty quickly. You just drop those in each one of the jars. Yep, try not to do it crooked like that, because that's going to be a problem. Now I got to get that out somehow. This is definitely something I've never seen in another video, maybe because of safety reasons. But if for some reason you start putting in one of these glass weights in crooked, don't force it and don't try to get it to move too much. Get one of these plastic lids, tap it like that, carefully open it, and I'm just pouring it back in there. That extracted it. You want to be careful. You want to make sure that you didn't break off any piece of the weight. Rinse it off. Put your cabbage back into the jar again carefully. Make sure this weight is okay, and then just so carefully put it back in. You don't want any cabbage above the weight, because that could be contaminated. So your jars are going to be a little cloudy, and that's fine. Put a lid on, and you don't have to put it super tight, just firm, because you're going to want to check it every once in a while. And these come with different colored lids, which is nice if you got a preference on color. And then this one, make sure that this has a center hole that's just like a little dimple. Make sure it's clear. Haven't tried one of these before, but I figured I'd give it a shot this time. A little different. These can have a tendency to drip out or seep, so I put them in a plastic container like this. They should all fit. Put it in a dark, cool place and just let it do its work. You can take a towel and put it over like this, just to keep it extra dark. Thumbs up and comments always appreciated. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in all sorts of kitchen ideas, cooking ideas, making and breaking things, home repairs, designs of all kinds, I even do costumes, cosplay, and props. Check out my channel and please subscribe, because you never know what eats you're gonna see.